Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. It's October, which means I get to excitedly put together a bunch of books that I feel like reading this month. This year has been a bit crazy for me, but I think it's about time we start looking at some fantasy series again. Going back to my fantasy roots, because I've been in this really weird mystery kick recently, which is very unlike me. So fantasy it is, with some added spooky books as well. My hope is to get through most of these this month. I do have a bigger TBR than I normally do because I had really good success in September sticking to what I chose. So I'm hoping we can continue that pace for October. I will say it's been very hard the past couple days trying to decide what to read because I feel like I'm being pulled in all sorts of different genre directions. Obviously, I want to read all the spooky vibes, but I think I have curated a really good stack of books here. I will also be starting a book for my randomly generated fall TBR. If you missed that video, it was really fun. I'll link it down below for you. I had random numbers decide what books to read on my shelves, and I'll be showing you one of those today. So let's go ahead and take a look at what I've got. So I want to continue a fantasy series that I really love, and I can't believe I haven't completed this one in particular yet because it turned into a favorite of mine. I was pretty much reading them back to back, and then I just lost my momentum, and it's definitely looming over my head. I am finally going to continue my journey through the Song of Shattered Sand series by reading Book 5, When Jackals Storm the Walls. So if you're including the novella, which I have already read, this is a 7-book series, and I only have 2 left, this one and the finale. And honestly, if I could read both of them in October, so also read A Desert Torn Asunder, which is book 6, what a freaking dream that would be to finally have this series completed. And plus, I just want to see how it ends. I don't want to put too much pressure on myself and set these really high expectations, so if I don't get to this finale, I'll read it in November. But I mean, it's a nice possibility. If you are looking for a desert fantasy, you have a perfect one here. These are action-packed with all kinds of drama and emotion. With so much dense storytelling, the character growth has been enormous throughout each book. My investment in each character is seriously gigantic, and it makes following this meaty story all the more satisfying. The first book, which was a 5-star read for me, it starts off as a fantasy puddle, and as the series expanded, it has become a far larger scope. The world of Sharakai is really well described and easy to imagine. Just imagine this huge city surrounded by a desert where giant ships have to traverse the sands like they're sailing on water. That's the world. It's so fun, so gripping, and I'm excited to see how it all comes to fruition. So hopefully I can finish that series just to start another, and that is Cold Iron, which is book 1 in the Masters and Mages series. This is one of the books that I randomly generated in my fall TBR video. There were 4 big books chosen for me, so I might as well get a start on that. I chose this one in particular this month because I'm feeling like a classic old school coming of age fantasy story, and I think this is exactly that. We have a farm boy who ventures off to school to study magic, and for extra fun he also learns how to fight with a sword because of course. I believe we also get to explore the city, which has different factions and groups that are with odds with one another. I think I'm either going to fly through this book or I'm going to struggle with it because I did not like The Red Knight by this author, so I'm going into it wary. I just really want a plain old fantasy fun. I don't care if it's tropey, I just want it to be entertaining, and from what I've heard, this is in that realm. So before we dive into more spooky reads, I do have another fantasy that I would love to get to, and that is The Magician's Daughter. Now, I am majorly jumping the gun on this one because it doesn't come out until February 2023, but I do have an early physical copy on the way. In fact, I should be getting it in a couple days, which tells me it's okay to read it now, and I'm going to. I've been excited about this one for a very long time, and I'm giving in to the beauty that is this cover. Plus, I've been wanting to read something by H.D. Perry. I've heard nothing but amazing things about her writing and her storytelling, so I want to start here. This is a historical fantasy mix taking place in the early 1900s, following a girl named Biddy, who lives on this island in Ireland that is veiled by magic, and she lives with her guardian, who is a raven-shifting magician, and he refuses to let her leave. Well, when one day he leaves and doesn't return, she learns a terrible truth. This just sounds so magical and cozy, and I think it fits the fall vibe so perfectly. It kind of reminds me of like Uprooted. I absolutely hated Uprooted, so I really hope it's not too similar, but it definitely kind of reminds me of that story. Okay, moving on to the spooky reads, I have House of Hunger. This is the same author who wrote a witchy book that I really enjoyed. It was The Year of the Witching. It was super creepy and bloody and also very empowering. I love the creepy village atmosphere she created, and when she mentioned on Twitter that she was writing another book that was focusing on vampires, I got really excited. So we have this woman who's living a very impoverished life, and she sees a flyer that is asking for a blood maid. She goes to the location, gets hired immediately, and becomes a favorite of the countess she's working for. I'll be totally honest, I'm probably going to picture the Countess as Lady Dimitrescu from Resident Evil Village, which is just going to make it even funner. But of course, everything begins to go wrong. She finds teeth in the room she's staying in, and other blood maids start to go missing, and she has to figure out the mystery before maybe she ends up like the others. This very much reminds me of the Elizabeth Bathory story. If you've never heard of Elizabeth Bathory, I highly recommend looking it up because it is stuff straight out of nightmares, but it's also very fascinating. So this sounds very sinister. I really love this author's writing style, the way she writes, atmosphere, and I'm excited to experience her version of vampires, especially since we got to see her first book through a witchy lens. The perfect book to pick up in October, especially with that gothic vibe. Let's hope Henderson's sophomore book is just as good as her debut, if not better. The next book that I would love to get to this month is A Dowry of Blood. Clearly, I'm going for a vampy, bloody October. This is another vampire book. Orbit is republishing this one with a brand new cover. This new cover gives me like a more adult feel, like a more serious vampire novel, if that makes sense. I think it's gorgeous. We follow a peasant woman who's lying on her deathbed, and she gets caught up with a vampire who asks her if she needs his help, aka I'll save you by turning you into a vampire, which is basically a life sentence of darkness itself. This just spews like a gothic aesthetic. It sounds like it's going to be a very fast read. I've heard it's very poetic and that the writing is beautiful. So I feel like I can fly through it unless I think otherwise. Sometimes poetic, flowery writing can get on my nerves. So we'll see. So if I were to be very ambitious, and let's be honest, we all sometimes like to be, especially when it comes to being a book nerd, and add one more book for funsies. Also because as a no bullshit DNFer, that's possible for any of these books that I chose today. So I think Episode 13 sounds really spooky. I have read another book by this author, Craig DeLuey, that I really enjoyed. It was a cult thriller, but this is more horror-based, about a ghost hunting TV crew, like Zach Bagans style, and they get access to a haunted mansion for their 13th episode. They expect it to get really good views, but things go awry, as ghost stories normally do. I love ghost hunting shows, even if they are fake and exaggerated to hell, I don't care. It's so entertaining to me and so fun for an hour to believe ghosts or demons are real and they're getting evidence of that. So to experience a book with exactly that, I am super pumped. This comes out January 2023, so another one that I'm jumping the gun on a little bit, but it's a horror novel, so it fits the Halloween season way too well. I really want to read it, and I hope to squeeze it in October. Okay, so that is going to be it for my October TBR. I'm really excited about the selection of books. So possibly all of these books, plus the 3 other books that I mentioned that I don't have physical copies of yet, but I should very soon. It's a little ambitious for me, but I did so well last month that I think I can keep that momentum going. It's just so difficult to keep up with all the new book releases, like January, February, March, and then August, September, October are the most packed books I feel when it comes to new releases coming out. So if I can get a little jumpstart on some 2023 releases, that would be freaking great. Anyways, I really hope you enjoyed it. Tell me below some books that you plan on getting to in October, because I would love to know anything spooky, any good fantasy that you're excited to read. There's definitely plenty of options. Like this video because it helps me out a lot, and subscribe if you haven't. Thank you all so much for watching, and until we meet again, happy reading.